Ukraine says that Russian forces have captured 4 villages in its Sumy region not far from the border, an area just opposite Russia's Kursk region, in fact. That comes as Russia continues to escalate its bombing campaign across Ukraine. Germany's Chancellor said that European leaders have told Kyiv they're lifting the limits on the range of the missiles they're giving to Kyiv, effectively allowing Ukraine to strike positions across in Russia. Let's cross live to Kyiv to get the latest on that from our correspondent there, Emmanuelle Chaze. Emmanuelle, tell us more. What does this announcement from Germany actually change for Ukraine?
Well, Ukraine was already striking deep into Russian territory, but with its own weapons and within limitations when it comes to the use of Western weapons. Remember, last November, then US President Joe Biden had lifted restrictions on the use of long-range American missiles, but within a certain range. So along the Russian border, on a 300 kilometers perimeter, and in fact, Ukraine needs to strike deeper if it wants to target military infrastructure within Russian territory, and it did so with its own weapon, but it always called for its allies to also allow it to use Western weapons for those targets as well. So this announcement from Friedrich Merz is, of course, welcomed here in Kyiv, but just like back in November when Volodymyr Zelensky had said that missiles would talk for themselves, there was no comment from the Ukrainian president on that use. Has it already happened? Will it happen soon? Of course, for strategic reasons, it's not going to be discussed, but it should be welcomed by the Ukrainian military so that they can increase the strikes and the force of the strikes that are launched on Russian military infrastructures. That means that they can target further and perhaps more efficiently, depending which missiles they will use, on ammunition depots, on warehouses, on production sites for missiles and ammunition. So this will come as a welcome news for Ukraine under intense pressure and under intense Russian bombing as of the last few days.
Indeed, Emmanuelle, that campaign by Russia intensifying sharply recently.
It did. Over the weekend, we've had over 900 drones, dozens of missiles which were thrown at Ukraine by Russia. There's at least 20 people who died, civilians who died. There's at least 80 people who were injured. Missiles, drones, debris of both falling on houses, while Russia continues to say that it targets only military infrastructure. And there again, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says that the authorization now given to Kyiv to strike with long-range Western weapons deep within Russian territory has been made because, to the contrary of what Russia is doing, Ukraine solely targets military infrastructure. And this comes at a time of intense pressure, not just from Russian bombing, but also, you've mentioned it, also on the front line in the border region of Sumy, which is actually under a constant Russian fire. There are now 4 Ukrainian settlements in this Sumy region that Ukraine says are now occupied by Russia. They used to be in what we call the gray zone, so not undefined presence, whether it's held by Ukrainian or Russian troops. And now it has been confirmed that Russians have made advances there, entering again this territory at the border, and it's just across this Kursk region where the Ukrainian army had started operations back in August 2024.
Emmanuelle Chaze in Kyiv, thanks very much for bringing us that update.